Assalamu alaikum. Dear students, my name is Abdul Majid. I am your teacher for the subject Principles of Systematic Zoology. Welcome to lecture number 9. In lecture number 9, we will talk about levels and divisions of taxonomy. Outlines. So, in today's lecture, we will talk about microtaxonomy, which has two phases or two parts. Number one, there is alpha taxonomy, which is also known as analytical phase. And the second is gamma taxonomy, which is also known as biological phase. And then we will talk about macro taxonomy, which has only one phase, that is beta taxonomy or synthetic phase. Lecture outcome. So after watching or listening to this lecture, students will know about different levels or sub-levels or divisions or different phases of taxonomy. Let's start with microtaxonomy. What is microtaxonomy? So it's clear from its name. It is when we study taxonomy at micro level, at smaller level. And what is smaller level in taxonomy? The species and the subspecies level is micro level, because there is domain is the top level, then there is kingdom, then there is phylum, and so on and so on, and then we come to species and subspecies, which is at the base, it is the foundation of classification. So they are at micro level. So that's why the study of species and subspecies is called microtaxonomy, when we study at micro level, species or subspecies level. So actually it is that branch of taxonomy which deals with species and subspecies, or you can define it as it is the taxonomy of species level. Mean when you are studying at species level or below species subspecies level, you are studying at micro level taxonomy. And when you start studying about genus or above genus level, so that is not microtaxonomy, that is macrotaxonomy, because you are going to upper levels, you are going to macro levels. So this taxonomy, this microtaxonomy, has two stages or two phases. Number one, that is known as alpha taxonomy, or it can also be known as analytical phase. And the other one is gamma taxonomy, or it is also known as biological phase. So what is alpha taxonomy? Let's talk about the alpha taxonomy or analytical phase, or you can say alpha phase. So it is related to characterization, discrimination, and naming of species. Later on, we will take a proper example, but let me clear it at this point that if you have unknown, you have species, but they are unknown, you don't know what these species are, what taxa or what categories they belong. So what you do, you study their characters, and on the basis of those characteristics you discriminate them from each other, and then you name them. So this level at which you characterize a species, you discriminate it, and then you name it. So this level is known as alpha phase or analytical phase or alpha taxonomy, or you can define it, it is that level at which species are characterized and named, or simply, as I told you, it is that level where you characterize a species and then name it. So this level is known as alpha taxonomy. It can be regarded as taxonomy. Mean simply, what is taxonomy? Taxonomy is the characterization and naming of organism, or classifying of organism into groups and subgroups. So it is actually taxonomy. Then there is the second phase, the gamma phase or the gamma taxonomy. So gamma taxonomy It is concerned with the study of intraspecific variations and other attributes. I mean, when you go inside species, before gamma, we were talking about the species, but when you go inside the species, when you dig out the differences, the different varieties, the different variations inside a population, inside a species, then you are studying at gamma level. Now you are at gamma level because you passed through species level, and now you are in subspecies and intraspecific variations. So this level is now a bit more complicated one. In this phase, or this part, is now known as gamma taxonomy, or you can define it as, it refers to intraspecific variation in evolutionary studies, and actually this is the study of speciation. For example, there is a species A, and that species is distributed throughout a very large geography, and some of the populations, they are isolated from each other. For example, species A has 5 populations, and these 5 populations are isolated geographically from each other. So with the passage of time, mutations will occur or variations will occur, and which will accumulate in the different populations. For example, in population number 3, there is a mutation, abrupt mutation, and it passes to their offsprings, and so on and so on, and differentiation occur in them, or variations occur in them. And when you study then these 5 populations, population number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and now there are differences inside these populations. Now all the species, keep in mind, all the species or all the populations belong to the same species. Mean population 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they belong to species A, but they are geographically isolated from each other. So with the passage of time, changes will accumulate in them, and when you study those changes, those variation inside that species, and then you differentiate them into different subspecies, so this is actually gamma taxonomy. We will take a proper example later on, and this is actually the study of speciation, because that's, with the passage of time, maybe there are that much of differentiation that the population number 3 or population number 4 will become a new species. So actually species give rise to new species, and this is actually the study of speciation. Here at this point we study speciation. Now it is actually concerned with population systematic. It can be regarded as systematics. So why we regard it systematic? Because in systematics we discriminate things. We like study the different characteristics. We study why certain characteristics are different, and why these what are the reason behind these differences, and why the characteristics are similar, and what are the reason behind the similarity of these similarities, reasons behind these similarities. So this is actually systematics. Now the second thing, or the second portion, is macrotaxonomy. What is macrotaxonomy? In macrotaxonomy, we study the upper levels. Like for example, we go up from subspecies and species, we go up a little bit more, and we go to genus and family and order and class and phylum and kingdom and domain. So these are these are upper classes. These are upper classes, so we call them macro classes. So it's macro taxonomy. So when we are studying at these levels, mean above species, mean genus, or above genus level, so this is called macro taxonomy. As it's the name indicates, it's at macro level. Like, it is that branch of taxonomy which deals with the classification of genus and higher taxa. So what we do in macrotaxonomy, we study genus and higher taxa. We classify genus and higher taxa. In micro level, we study species and subspecies, but in macro, we study genus and upward. It has only one stage that is known as beta taxonomy or beta phase or synthetic phase. So what is this? It refers to the arrangement of species into a natural system of lower and higher categories. So again, we will take a proper example. But before that, for example, you have a species, you don't know them, then you characterize and discriminate and then you name it, and after naming you have a species. So you are working at micro level, but now this species, you need to put this species in a genus, and that genus into a family, and that family into order, and that order into a class. So when you put this species in a genus, and then genus into family, and family into order, and order into class, and class into phylum, and so on. So then this is actually macro taxonomy, and it is beta phase, it is synthetic phase, or it is beta taxonomy. So it is the classification of identified species, already identified species, those species which are already identified, and now you are classifying them, or you are placing those species into different categories. It can be regarded as classification because it's simple. You are just putting the identified species into higher taxa or higher categories. In actual practice, it's very difficult to discriminate these stages. Like it is very difficult to discriminate beta phase from the gamma and gamma from the alpha phase, because these phases or these stages, they integrate with each other. It is very difficult to discriminate them. Uh, in most animals, like for example, taxonomy is at alpha level or beta level, but there are very few groups where taxonomy reached gamma level, like in birds, like in insects, like an insect is order Lepidoptera or Coleoptera, and there are many other Isoptera and Dermoptera, Diptera. So their taxonomy reached gamma level. Maybe in some fishes also it reached gamma level, and maybe in some other groups, but not in all groups. Like taxonomy is not up to that mark. It's not reached that level. It's not touched that level yet. But in some groups, we have like gamma level, like for example in birds and in insects and lepidopterans, and maybe in some fishes, or maybe in some other animal species, but not in all. So in maximum groups we have alpha level and beta level, and very few and limited groups where animals are so much adopted and they reached subspecies level. So then we have like the gamma phase. Otherwise we don't have a gamma level. um, let's take an example. Let me clear it properly. For example, species and then subspecies. So when we study it, species and subspecies, this level is known as microtaxonomy. Then when we study it, domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus. When we study it, these levels from domain to genus, these are known as macrotaxonomy. So taxonomy is actually two divisions major. Microtaxonomy, where we study species and subspecies, and macrotaxonomy, where we study domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, and genus. Now let's take an example. For example, wolf, Bedia. Everybody knows it. The scientific name of wolf is Canis lupus. So let's start. For example, if you have a wolf, Canis lupus, and you want to put this Canis lupus into higher categories, so where are you studying? You are studying at higher categories, at higher levels, and that is macrotaxonomy. So for example, Canis lupus or wolf belongs to domain Eukaryota. It belongs to kingdom Animalia, and it is a work of taxonomist. The taxonomist will place these identified species into higher categories. So a taxonomist places a wolf into domain Eukaryota, into a kingdom Animalia on the basis of characteristics. And then he places it into the phylum Vertebrata because it's a vertebrate. Then the taxonomist will place the wolf into a class Mammalia because it's mammal. And then he will place it into order Carnivora because it's a carnivore. And then he will place it in the family Canidae because they have canines. And then he will place it in a genus Canis, again on the basis of the canine teeth. So this level, this is beta phase. When identified Canis lupus and identified species, you place this identified species into genus, into family, into order, into class, into phylum, into kingdom, into a domain. Mean you place this lupus, this wolf, into Canis, Canidae, Carnivora, Mammalia, Vertebrata, Animalia, Eukaryota. So this phase or this taxonomy is called beta phase or beta taxonomy, which in turn is a macro taxonomy. Now let's go to the micro level. So for example, you have a genus Canis, and the Canis, this genus Canis has species, but you don't know what are those species. For example, if you have three species, species 1 unknown, species 2 unknown, species 3 unknown, but you know these species belong to genus Canis, but you don't know these species. What you do, the scientist will characterize, will study the character of this species, then this species, and then this species. And on the basis of those characteristics, he will discriminate these species. And after discrimination and characterization, he will name it. So for example, he named the first one lupus, and the second one aureus, and the third one familiaris. So now we have three species: a Canis lupus, the common wolf; Canis aureus, the jackal; the Canis familiaris, the common dog. So now this is microtaxonomy, but in microtaxonomy this is alpha phase because you are studying at species level, you are identifying or you are working at species level, you are identifying, you are working inside species level. You identified these species by discriminating their characteristics. Now again, if not all species have subspecies. You know, there is monotypic species and there is polytypic species. So monotypic species are those species which do not have any subspecies, and polytypic species are those species which have subspecies. So not all species have subspecies. Some species have subspecies and some species do not have subspecies. So for example, if this lupus has subspecies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but again you don't know them. So what will you do? You will again characterize them, you will study their characteristics, and after studying their characters, for example, you identified the first one as lupus, and now these are the subspecies: subspecies lupus, subspecies albus, subspecies arbus, subspecies campestris, and subspecies chango. So now you have five subspecies. So when you study at subspecies level, so this level is now known as gamma phase or gamma level. So now you see, I told you that not in every group you have gamma phase. Those species or those groups where there are subspecies, so there is gamma level, and if there are no subspecies, there are no gamma level. There is then only alpha and beta levels. So when you are studying at subspecies level, this is gamma phase and this is microtaxonomy. So both of these alpha phase and gamma phase both are microtaxonomy. So now it becomes Canis lupus lupus, Canis lupus albus, Canis lupus arabus, Canis lupus campestris, Canis lupus chenko. I hope you understand now. These are actually the tundra wolf, Canis lupus alvus, Canis lupus arabus, Arabian wolf. Then this is steppe wolf, Canis lupus campestris, and this is Mongolian wolf, Canis lupus chenko. So these are a few examples. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any question, please ask. Feel free to ask any question. If you have any question, please ask. Thank you. Take care. Allah Hafiz.